Dr. Lorde, many people in the Caribbean aren't familiar with the acronym of late. Can you explain what's the role and the mandate of RADO?
Yeah, the RADO brings together 15 Caribbean countries and to pool resources, because under the World Anti-Doping Code, there are certain things you need to do: educate and test athletes. There are other things, of course, research and so on. And we don't have the resources in each country to do that. In addition, there is need for results management and appeals committees and so on. So WADA has developed in various regions, and the Caribbean is one of the 15 regions in the world, where we have a regional body which pulls together resources to educate our athletes. We have a website. We do out-of-competition testing. We train doping control officers. As a matter of fact, here in London, 3 of our certified doping control officers are working as doping control officers at these games.
You mentioned education a few times there, Dr. Lorde, and that's one of the things you hear coming through from the athletes. They're saying, I took a substance, when they're found guilty most times. I took a substance and it was over the counter. I didn't know what it contained. Is the education process working?
Yes, it's working, but it's not getting right to the athlete all the time. We need to educate not only the athlete, but the entourage, the doctors, the physios, the pharmacists, the chiropractors, and the whole entourage is responsible.
So the onus is also on the athlete.
Yeah, the athlete needs to, it's strict liability, so they're responsible for whatever they put into their bodies.
Based on the current situation, what is the feedback you're getting, not just from the athlete bodies, but from the national delegations and national associations to the work that Caribbean RADO is trying to achieve?
We're getting some response from some of the countries. Some countries are not taking full advantage of what the RADO is offering, and only half of the countries have responded by doing tests, and some haven't even responded by offering tests.
You're having such issues. Why are you facing these?
It's ignorance. People are lazy. People don't think it's a big thing in their country. But I think it will send a message. If you have one of your athletes tested, and that process, he or she can tell someone else what it's all about. I think we need to educate our athletes. I talk about educating all the time, but testing is only one part of the thing. But you need to educate, let them make awareness of it. And at the critical levels, for instance, in the Caribbean, we've been doing testing for several years. And we don't want an athlete to come to the Olympics or CSC or Pan Am Games and then end up testing positive for a substance.
St. Kitts and Nevis sprinter Tamika Williams, she was tested, but she was found to not, she was cleared after being tested, but the association and the Olympic Committee took it upon themselves to send her home because she was in possession of something that's considered a banned substance. Did they take the right step? Or should they allow her to go through the set-out process under WADA and RADO to determine whether she was guilty or not?
Marion Jones was tested and 163 times and never was tested positive. We, the RADO, actually tested Tamika Williams earlier this year, and the test also came back as negative. But doping is not just testing. Doping is not just the provision of the finding of the sample substance in your urine or your body specimen. There are other things. Admission of doping is an offense. So the anti-doping rule violation does include possession, trafficking of substances, attempting to administer substances, refusing to do a test when asked to do the test, or not giving your whereabouts. So it's not just that, and we don't know the details, and have not been, the RADO has not been involved in this case thus far. I think because St. Kitts NOC took it amongst themselves. From press reports, I think that they consulted the IAAF and the IOC and or WADA then directly and got some advice from them. But myself, as chairman of the RADO, I haven't been directly involved in that case.
If they have a regional organization there to help them, I would think that they would come to regional organization first.
Yes.
But again, that's education.
Yeah, and they have a very active person in St. Kitts Nevis who has been doing a lot of education for
RADO in the future then. What is the desired outcome? What would make Dr. Lorde a very satisfied man in the future with regard to anti-doping in the Caribbean?
We need funding, and the RADO needs funding. We've been benefited from funding from the Commonwealth Secretariat, and the Canadian government has helped us. So that has ended, and we are now trying to sustain ourselves. The Barbados government had promised to do such, and they found it very difficult to continue. So we're in such that, so funding is important. Of course, we need education. The funding is needed to educate and travel through the region to meet with the various stakeholders so that they will be aware of what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And we need the stakeholders to, get on board.
Are we making too much of a big deal of anti-doping in the Caribbean? Because based on the numbers, not very many Caribbean athletes have been caught doping or involved in doping scandals in, let's say, the last 10, 15 years. Should we be putting a heavy focus on it?
Yes, athletes are out there. They're on the market, North American market, right. And they'll be exposed to it. So they need to be aware of what they should or should not do. So we need to let them know. We need to focus on it. Internationally, the number of positives are 1% or 2% of all the tests that have been done. 87,000 tests were done last year, and there were less than 2% that were positive. Prior to the Olympics, 107 positives were done, not in the Caribbean, worldwide, were found. During the Olympics so far, we have heard about 2 or 3 cases.
Three so far, yes.
3, and these are pre-competition. I mean, tests are being done even before competition, and were done before opening ceremony from the time the village was open. So we need to let our athletes know, and we need to continue the fight, because we have signed on to the WADA Code. The national federations have signed on to the WADA Code. The National Olympic Committees of the Caribbean have signed on to the WADA Code. So therefore, they need to institute this testing.
I asked you earlier if doping, you're saying it trickled down to the lesser levels like Carifta and the younger competitions rather than the Olympics.
No, we haven't been. The Carifta Games, we've been doing tests for several years now. We've never had any anti-doping rule violations at that level. But at least the athletes are aware of what they should do. I think they're more cautious of it, and conscious of it too, because if they're taking any substance, they always make sure that they have their therapeutic use exemption, or they ask a question. The website is there. There are several other sites. They're asking questions: should I take this? Should I not take this? Or call the person who knows to prevent any problems in the future.
Is the process foolproof?
The process is foolproof. Well, nothing might be 100%, but once you get to the lab, everything is good. The sample collection is done properly and efficiently and correctly, so that no problems, no tampering of the samples occur at that level, and the bottles are sealed and sent off to the lab by courier, so that I'm following all international standards.
Paralympics will also be tested during their games right after the London Olympics as well.
And that says a lot for the Caribbean. To be invited by the local to do testing here. It's not just an invitation. They have to be trained, they have to be tested in order to pass, in order to be here. Strict testing. There are 214 doping control officers during the games, and to have Caribbean RADO trained doping control officers is really a big thing to me.